Hell has begun urgently. The General Staff of the Armed Forces of Ukraine has revealed the truth about the encirclement in Pokrovsk. You have to see this. The Russian army is writhing like a snake and our forces are cutting off its tail. The Russian command was definitely not prepared for this. They are urgently coming up with a plan B. Heavy fighting has begun. The countdown is now in hours. The standoff of the year. Putin is already reporting victory, but it's too soon. The moment of truth has come. Don't miss everything about this. Coming up next.
The Ukrainian crew of a German Leopard tank crushes a Russian FPV Z-Dun drone with a drop on the road. Apparently, its operator missed the moment when he could have launched the deadly drone into the sky. Currently, the situation in the Pokrovsk-Mirnorod direction is very difficult, if not critical. Almost half of all clashes on the front line are happening precisely in the Pokrovsk direction. Russian channels are reporting that the city is essentially encircled. The Ukrainian armed forces have no chances.
The Ministry of Defense of the Russian Federation has received an order from the Supreme Commander-in-Chief of the Russian Federation to ensure unhindered passage for foreign journalists, including Ukrainian ones, upon their request to the Command of the Armed Forces of Ukraine to visit the areas where Ukrainian troops are encircled in Krasnoarmysk, Dmitriv and Kupiansk. The Russian command is ready, if necessary, to cease hostilities for 5 to 6 hours in these areas, and also to provide corridors for the unhindered entry and exit of groups of foreign media representatives, including Ukrainians, provided that safety is guaranteed for both journalists and Russian military personnel. So that,
to show the supposedly dire situation of the Ukrainian armed forces, the Kremlin wants to provide a corridor for Western journalists.
This is about attempts to wage psychological and media warfare, to draw attention to the fact that the Ukrainian armed forces are in a bad situation, and specifically in the way Putin wants it to be portrayed, with excessive dramatization.
According to the General Staff of the Ukrainian Armed Forces, there is no talk of any encirclement. Fighting is already taking place on the outskirts of both Mirnorod and Pokrovsk. President Volodymyr Zelensky stated that about 170,000 Russian soldiers are concentrated near Pokrovsk. At the same time, ammunition and supplies are being delivered to the Ukrainian armed forces systematically. All the talk about encirclement, Russian disinformation.
there is no blockade of our defense forces in Pokrovsk by the enemy. These are merely statements of Russian propaganda that do not correspond to reality. The enemy's occupation army is indeed increasing pressure in the Pokrovsk direction, particularly in the area of the Pokrovsk-Mirnorod agglomeration. The situation in Pokrovsk remains difficult and dynamic. Separate groups of enemy infantry are infiltrating the city of Pokrovsk and attempting to move around. And to concentrate in this
to immediately withdraw and safely evacuate to the north. Supply continues. What does this mean? It means that, for example, during the supply columns, these could be trucks or some other means of transportation which might be less noticeable than large trucks. But nonetheless, the losses in these particular situations, especially regarding connections with the echelon, may be somewhat greater than in other cases. Still, despite everything, life continues to go on.
Despite the difficult situation, even if the Ukrainian armed forces have to leave Pokrovsk and Mirnorod, the occupying forces, having lost a huge amount of equipment and personnel, will in no way change the overall picture along the front line. This is also confirmed by the intelligence of European countries.
Of course, it is also clear that sooner or later Ukraine will have to withdraw its units from the Pokrovsk district. But, as I have said before, the capture of the Pokrovsk district by Russian forces will not determine the overall situation in Ukraine. Anne Skivelsk, head of the intelligence center of the Estonian Defense Forces.
Putin claimed that Pokrovsk would be under the control of the Russian army a year ago. In reality, the Kremlin's plans have still not been realized.
A triumph for Ukraine, the Russian stronghold is in ruins. Our forces did it. Ukrainian ballistic missiles blew up all of Russia's secret hideouts. What a spectacle. Flamingos and Neptunes pierced the heart of Russia. Putin is shouting everywhere that this is a failure. Palyanitsia is heading straight for... This happened for the first time. Fierce drones have finally secured their place in the skies over Russia. The enemy's air defense has finally admitted it is powerless against this deadly armada. Ukrainian innovations have once again shown what they're capable of. What other trump cards does the Ukrainian armed forces have up their sleeve? We'll find out in just a moment.
Ukraine has destroyed Oreshnik on Russian territory, according to the head of the security service of Ukraine, Vasyl Malyuk. It has not been disclosed what specific weapon was used by the Ukrainian intelligence services. Nevertheless, Ukraine's defense industry is expanding significantly every year. Ukraine is successfully using Neptune and Flamingo missiles together to strike Russia. President Volodymyr Zelensky told journalists about this and noted that it is not a widespread use. But there are already the first tangible results regarding this weapon. In
the future, I think the missiles and missile attacks that will be developed with the help of Flamingo or Neptune, they will be accompanied by a large number of different types of unmanned systems, drones, which will each perform their own function. Some will be targeting air defense, some will be destroying air defense, some will be creating interference, and some will be providing support using electronic warfare.
The president also mentioned the use of the Palyanitsia drone missile, which has already struck military depots dozens of times, of the enemy. The second positive trend, according to Zelensky, is the use of what he described as innovative methods and modern technologies by Ukrainian forces, which are being implemented more frequently on the battlefield to improve their effectiveness and resilience.
The Ruta drone missile, which for the first time flew 250 kilometers and struck a sea tower, either from the air or from the ground. Then these wings unfold and they create aerodynamic force that allows such a missile to fly far. Our Ukrainian rocket drones, on the other hand, have a permanently attached fixed wing that is specifically installed together, and they do not require any special launchers or special cases that are inserted into these launchers to ensure unification.
However, the greatest achievement of the Ukrainians is considered to be the mass use of Luti kamikaze drones, which
The process involved numbering up to 300 unmanned aerial vehicles, or UAVs. Each UAV was assigned a unique identification number, which made it possible to track and manage every aircraft throughout the operation. This careful numbering system ensured that all UAVs could be easily referenced and monitored, helping the team maintain organization and accountability during the mission. By giving each UAV its own number, the team could quickly identify and locate any specific aircraft whenever needed, which was essential for smooth coordination and overall mission success.
in terms of combat payload and range, naval drones have improved. Security Service of Ukraine. They can strike targets over 1,500 kilometers away. They were first used in 2022 during the attack on Russian Black Sea Fleet ships in Sevastopol Bay. And since then, these drones have been constantly evolving and improving.
Our security service now has significantly more means of destruction. There are more than there used to be. Malyuk, there are many other things as well. If there's a task for the Malyuk, then the Malyuk is used. If there's a task for other drones, then other drones are used.
Since August of this year, the serial production of the Flamingo missile has been announced, capable of striking targets at a distance of 3,000 kilometers. The modernized Neptune has been successfully operating against ground targets for a year now, currently at distances of up to 400 kilometers. It has been stated that soon it will be able to strike up to 1,000 kilometers.
Every voice matters. Join our community, support independent journalism, and help us bring you the truth from Ukraine. Become a member of Ukraine today. Join us now.
Right now in Kupiansk, Russian units are losing their cohesion. Their plan has been foiled. The enemy is stuck in their positions. This is shocking. The Ukrainian armed forces counteroffensive has regained its momentum. Ukrainian forces are stubbornly pushing forward, sweeping the enemy from their path. They are delivering precise strikes directly at the enemy's military lifeline, without which it definitely won't last long. At this very moment, the battles are becoming critical. Putin is pointing his gun at Ukrainian lands, but it's all in vain. The fight for every inch of land continues. Thank you. All the truth about what's happening on the hottest section of the front. Don't miss it coming up next. The battles for control over the city of Kupiansk, a major transport hub in the Kharkiv region, are ongoing.
The situation in Kupiansk remains difficult and challenging, but these days we have gained more control over the circumstances. We continue to steadfastly defend our positions.
Against this backdrop, Russian propaganda has once again churned out another batch of fakes. The bunker dweller claimed that Ukrainian troops in Kupiansk are surrounded and blocked. In
the city of Kupiansk and Dnipro Army City, the enemy turned out to be blocked and surrounded. By the way, I discussed this issue with the commanders of the relevant ROC group. They are not opposed to allowing representatives of the mass media, including both international and foreign journalists, into the enemy's encirclement zone. Ukrainian journalists are also permitted to enter as well. This decision reflects their openness to media coverage and transparency regarding the situation within the zone, so that they could go in and carefully observe with their own eyes what is really happening there and see for themselves the actual condition of the encircled Ukrainian troops. And so that the political leadership of Ukraine could make the appropriate decisions regarding the fate of their citizens and their military personnel.
But these statements have nothing to do with reality. This is a fairly typical old Kremlin tactic, media blackmail and an attempt to demoralize Ukrainian society.
As of today, I believe the situation has been stabilized, and I hope that our security and defense forces will be able to do everything to prevent the town from being captured.
In reality, this is not an encirclement, but rather heavy local fighting.
The main direction of the occupiers' attack is not Kupiansk itself, but Kupiansk-Vuzlovi. The occupiers' plans include the possibility of establishing control over this key railway station.
As of October 30th, Ukrainian forces maintain control over most of Kupiansk and key transportation hubs. Russian occupiers have entrenched themselves in small groups on the northern outskirts of the city and in the western part, creating a foothold for further attempts at an offensive.
In other words, they are trying to change their tactics and strategy of combat operations in urban buildings. It is fundamentally different from the tactics used in Bakhmut. 2.5 years ago, when the occupiers used a large amount of armored vehicles and the so-called local assault tactics to establish control over this settlement.
The main threat remains the northern direction, with the enemy attempting to break through to the highway, Kharkiv, Kupiansk, Svatove. This route is vital for supplying Ukrainian units on the eastern bank of the Oskil River. From the south and east, Russian forces have been unable to approach the city. The main supply route for the armed forces of Ukraine remains through the railway station, Kupiansk-Uzlovi, and the embankment dam across the Oskil. The dam is periodically subjected to enemy airstrikes but remains operational, while pontoon crossings serve as backups.
Ukrainian units are located precisely in the area of the Sloviansk urban agglomeration. This is the main objective. In other words, the occupiers' strategic goal is to establish full control over the territory of Donetsk region.
But the enemy has run into the tough defense of the Ukrainian armed forces. Counterattacks by Ukrainian troops are holding back the Russian advance.
At the present moment, Ukraine's defense forces are actively and diligently conducting ongoing counter-sabotage operations within the village, working to ensure the safety and security of the area. Their primary objective is to prevent any infiltration attempts by hostile elements. Kupiansk, as a result, is being closely monitored and protected by these dedicated forces.
Not just another point on the map. It is a symbol of resilience, endurance, and military stamina. The Russian army is trying to take the city by attrition, but the Ukrainian defense is holding strong. No matter how much the Kremlin tries to pass off wishful thinking as reality, the truth is on the side of those who defend their home. And step by step, they are driving the enemy out of Ukrainian land.